Welcome to Unshaken, the podcast where unwavering faith meets real life. I'm Christy, and together with my husband, Tony, we dive into authentic conversations, offering biblical insights and sharing stories that inspire resilience, especially for families navigating the unique challenges of disabilities. Join us each week as we explore faith, family, and the journeys that keep us grounded in Christ. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Let's stand firm together.
Welcome to another episode of Unshaken. My name is Tony, and normally I've got my wife Christy here with me, but today I am flying solo. So I wanted to take today's episode to talk about some of the lessons that I've learned in the last few years as we have walked this journey of disability ministry through the All-Ability ministry with FCA and with Unshaken, and kind of how we've gotten to this point. I hope that if you are dealing with a disability yourself, or if one of your loved ones has a disability and you are part of their primary care, I hope that after today's episode you feel seen and you feel heard. I hope that if you are someone who has a heart for this ministry, but you feel overwhelmed or you're just not sure where to start, you want to do something, I hope that after today's episode that you have some ideas and some things that you can try over the next week or two to just get started. Because right off the bat, it's not about perfection, it's about progress. And that's what we need to make. We need to continually make progress. And even though today I'm sharing some of the things that I've learned, I want to be so clear that I'm not done learning. I'm going to continue to learn. I want to take a minute to just talk to church staff, pastors especially, because I don't want you to be afraid of this episode, because we're certainly not going to bash churches. That's not Christy's heart. That's not my heart. We do want to have uncomfortable conversations because we do feel like when we have those conversations, it starts and it opens the doors so that we can, again, make progress. It's not about perfection, it's about progress. And I know that for many churches, your plates are overflowing. It feels impossible to do anything else. It's about just starting that conversation. You know, if you are a church leader, I hope that this podcast does encourage you. I hope that it does stir something in you so that conversation can be had, even if it is a little tough or a little awkward. And just know that you're not alone. We are here to help. We're here to bounce ideas. We are here to be a sounding board. You know, we want to help and we want to be a part of the process. And so if I had to sum up all of the lessons that I've learned over the last few years, the phrase that comes to mind is just do something. If I go back to where this all began, I guess I have to go back to September of 2021. My friend Jason Shack took me to lunch, and he said, Tony, he said, I'm leading the Brevard County FCA. We need someone to do some of our tech work. We need someone that will do our social media, that will do our website. Jason and I have worked together before when he was a youth pastor at our church. I've known Jason now for almost 13 years. This kind of tech work was up my alley, and it was work that I enjoyed doing. And so I said, you know, Jason, I would absolutely love to do that. I do have one condition, that as opportunities arise, that I would be able to share the gospel and be able to minister alongside you and alongside the rest of the team. You know, I didn't want to be just the guy in the back just sitting behind a computer screen. I wanted to be a part of the process of pointing people to Jesus, because ultimately that's what we're all called to do, is to point people back to Jesus Christ. And so he said, that's no problem, that I love that idea. I started coming to FCA staff meetings in October. I'm learning all about FCA, trying to learn what it's going to take to do the website well and to do social media well. About a month in, found out that we were going to do what I'm going to call a big staff meeting. And so the night before this big staff meeting, Christy and I are sitting at our kitchen table. We were sitting there and we were praying together. One of the things that we were asking God was about the ministry that He wanted us to do together as a family. It was very important to both of us that whatever ministry He was calling us to, it would be a ministry that we could do together. And so, as we said many times on this podcast, and we said it as a part of this prayer as well, we said, God, would you light it up with stadium lighting to make it so that we can't miss it? So would you just light it up and make it undeniable, make it unmistakable what you want us to do as a ministry together? And so that night, I had the worst night of sleep ever. I tossed and turned all night long. I woke up the next day and I said to Christy, I think God's going to do something today. I just feel like, Satan's trying to get me off my game. I feel like Satan's trying to keep me tired. He's trying to distract me. He's trying to make me think about everything else besides what I need to do today, at this, staff meeting with all these people that, I haven't met yet, right? This is going to be my first big staff meeting as a part of the Brevard FCA team, so there's a lot of things that are happening and that are new today, and I really wanted to be on top of my game today. Number one, as loving as she is, her first thought was, I'm so sorry that happened. I'm so sorry that you didn't get, the good night's sleep that you were really hoping for, but God's got you and God's got this. We get into the meeting and we get through some housekeeping things, and then the leadership, which includes Jason, Shaq, gets up in front of the group and says, hey guys, we have a video that we want to show you guys. It was given to us by FCA National. FCA doesn't know what we're going to do with this yet, but we wanted to show the video to just get people praying and get people thinking about what the next steps might be. So this video that's being shown is the first video of an all-ability FCA camp that happens in Ohio. And as I'm watching this video, the very first thought that comes to mind is, finally somebody gets it. Finally somebody understands the need for something like this within the special needs community. And as I'm watching this incredible video, tears are just running down my face. I'm bawling like a baby. I'm towards the front of the room, so it's not like I can hide this from everybody by being in the back and like kind of, covering my face or whatever. Like, I am in the front of the room. Everybody can see me. I was so emotional that Jason told me later that he actually considered stopping the video in the middle of it because he thought that I was offended, that I was mad about the content of the video. It wasn't until later that he realized that I was just so moved by what was going on. As soon as the video was over and they turned the lights back on, I made a beeline for Jason. And I said, Jason, I don't care what it takes. We're going to do that. We're going to do that kind of camp in Brevard County. I don't know how we're going to do it. I don't know how it's going to look, but we're going to do that in Brevard County. And he said, okay, it's going to start with prayer. And I said, absolutely. We're going to absolutely start with prayer. That really was the kickoff for me when it came to the disability ministry. We finished up with the meeting. During lunch, I stepped away and I called Christy and I told her all about the video. And I made Jason promise me that he would give me that video so that I could show Christy that night. But even, sorry guys, I didn't realize how emotional it would be to retell their story. Talking with Christy on the phone, just kind of describing what was in this video. She started crying on the phone. And, by the time we both got home that night, I was able to get a copy of the video from Jason. We sat and watched the video together, and we were both just in tears of just how beautiful this video was and how excited we were to step into this ministry. And we both agreed that this was exactly what God was calling us to do. Jason put me in contact with Tristan Griffin, who I consider another great friend of mine, and Tristan was the one that organized that camp in Ohio. I must have talked Tristan's ear off for an hour. I feel bad for him because he had to listen to all my words, and I was so excited to meet him, so excited to hear his story, hear his family story, and so excited to also know that his heart for this ministry was very similar, if not exactly the same heart that I had for this ministry, in the sense of I didn't just want to minister just to the individual with special needs. I wanted to minister to the entire family. So, if there were siblings involved, like I wanted them to know that, hey, I know a lot of attention is being paid to your brother or sister that has special needs, but you know what? You still have a plan and purpose for your life as well. God sees you just as much. You are just as wonderfully and fearfully made by God, and God has a plan and purpose for your life. And I want you to know that, yes, a lot of attention is paid to your sibling, but we see you as well, and we want to let you know how much God loves you as well. I have a really big heart for moms and dads of kids that have special needs, because I know that when there's this family dynamic, there can be some grief that's going on with mom and dad. There can be some guilt. There can be just a plethora of emotions that happen because of a child that you love with all of your heart has special needs, either because they were born that way or because something happened after birth that caused the disability. Your life, as mom and dad, is kind of turned upside down, no matter what the case is, no matter if it's, a disability that happened to the child at birth or a disability that comes later. Your life is still thrown a curveball that you probably weren't expecting when you first realized that you were pregnant. It was very important to me to make sure that we minister to the entire family, because when it comes to raising kids with disabilities or caring for an adult with disabilities, it takes a village. It's not just one person. It truly does take a village. So I wanted to make sure that we ministered to that entire village, whether it was mom and dad, maybe it's aunt and uncle, maybe it's grandparents, whoever was involved in that person's life. I wanted to make sure that we were ministering to them as well. Because the sad reality is that depending on the stats that you look up, about 50 to 70% of our special needs families don't have a church home. And I really wanted to change that. I wanted to make sure that when people were looking for a community of believers, that they could grow in their relationship with Christ, that they had somewhere to go. So many of our families, too many of our families, don't have anywhere to go, which is why it's so important to have the conversations with our church leaders and our pastors, not out of blame, not out of, anger or anything like that, but just to say, hey, we really need to address this. We really need to be a place where people can go to have a relationship with Jesus. I mean, this is God's house. It should be the easiest, most accessible place to get to. And sadly, in a lot of cases, it's not. Rather than blame, rather than get angry, instead, let's be more productive. Let's start that conversation and let's see what we can do as a church to make it easier for those that have different challenges to be able to come to God's house, be a part of the services and be a part of the Sunday school classes and all that kind of stuff, but also be a part of the ministry process and serving alongside, not just serving to. So just had multiple conversations with Tristan over the holiday break, and and now we come to January of 2022, and Jason and I put together a lunch with a bunch of community leaders with the basic question of, FCA is starting this all-ability ministry at some point. Is this something that is needed in Brevard County? We certainly didn't want to do anything in Brevard County that wasn't supported by strong community leaders that we knew that we were going to have to partner with to get this ministry off the ground. We showed the video from Ohio to give them an idea of what this could look like, but then we opened up the floor and we said, is this a ministry that is needed here in Brevard County? And the resounding answer was yes. It's absolutely needed here in Brevard County, and they were so excited that we were going to start something like this. And so I was able to kind of share with them, my heart and, things that God had put on my heart. And, since November and since, talking with Jason, talking with Tristan, talking with others that were going to kind of be the pioneers and be the trailblazers in this space. So I was able to share that with them, and they were excited. They were so encouraging. And as we were wrapping up lunch, I'll never forget this, but as we were wrapping up lunch, one of the community leaders came up to me and he said, Tony, you're going to start planning things, and you're going to start, thinking through how you're going to pull off, these various events and the various things that, that you just told us about. He said, there's one piece of advice that I want to give you right off the bat. And I said, okay, what's that? He said, I don't want you to get paralyzed in the planning. He said, when you feel stuck, he said, I want you to just do something. He said, it does not have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be all figured out, because I want you to realize that there's nothing going on currently. So there is no expectation. So anything that you do is going to be welcomed by this community and is going to be seen as a giant step forward as we establish the All-Ability ministry. Please don't get stuck. Please just do something. And I can't wait to see the things that God does through this ministry. And so that is something that just has always stuck with me as we've done different events. I've always kind of kept that as a baseline of just do something. FCA officially launches the All-Ability Ministry at their big conference in February of 2022. I am honored to be a part of the team that helps to develop some of the trainings and some of the webinars and some of the things that we've got in place so that if someone is new to FCA but they want to start the All-Ability Ministry in their area, they've got some resources and some things to at least just get the ball rolling and get some ideas out there so that they are not starting completely from scratch. That's one of the things that I've learned is that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You need to look at what is already going on in the community and what disabilities are already being served in the community. Just as an example, go to your favorite search engine, whether that's Google or whatever, and literally just type, whatever your area is, and disability services. So if we use Brevard County, I would type in Brevard County Disability Services and just hit enter and let Google give me the search results. And what I'm now looking for is I'm now looking to see what's in that top 10. Now, I'm not talking about the sponsored listings. I'm not talking about that stuff. I'm talking about the stuff that comes after the sponsored listings. What's in that top 10? Because whatever's in that top 10, that's what's being served in your area. So if you see a bunch of services that deal with the deaf community, then that's where you're going to start the All-Ability Ministry, is you're going to start with that community. If you see a bunch of services for autism, then that's where you're going to start your disability. Don't reinvent the wheel. Go where they already are and start there. Start with the community that you have. Don't try to invent a community. Start with the community that's already there, because they're the ones that need you. They're already there in your area. That's where we started. We started with what was already here. And here in Brevard County, we have a very large autism community. So that's where I started. One of the things that has always stuck with me is making sure that we do things to provide the closest experience that these special needs kids see their siblings get. We want to provide that same experience as close as possible whenever they are participating in one of our events. The owner of the Savannah Bananas and Banana Ball and all that stuff, what he calls it is fans first. He has this philosophy that everything that we do, we're going to make sure that the fans have a good experience at our games. And so he's always looking at the pain points that the fans are experiencing. And he says that is going to guide our principles. We are going to put our fans first, and we are going to deal with those pain points. And so for me, with the All-Ability Ministry, it's not about fans, it's about family. So let's make sure that if the kid that has special needs, if he's used to seeing, his brothers or sisters getting soccer jerseys and trophies and things like that, then when we do an event, let's make sure that we get that event as close to what they see their siblings get as possible. So soccer is a great example. We did soccer for 4 weeks, 1 hour a week, And when we did soccer with our All-Abilities community, we didn't just give them a t-shirt that said like All-Abilities soccer event or whatever. It was really important to me that when we did this soccer for 4 weeks, and we called it a soccer league, that each and every single participant in the league got their very own soccer jersey. So that was very much important to me because I wanted them to feel like they had the same experience that they saw their brothers and or sisters have. So at the end of the 4 weeks, we did a celebration night, and we gave every single one of those athletes, we gave them a trophy, and we gave them their very own soccer ball, and we gave them a Bible. And we said, hey, we want you to keep this jersey. So many of them tried to give the jersey back. I said, no, that's yours. You get to keep that. And to see their face light up and their eyes get so wide when they realize, this is mine? Yes, it's yours. You get to keep that. And it just was so awesome to be able to see that and be able to provide that experience. And so when we are doing the ministry and when we are, trying to figure out, where we're going to put our resources, I mean, if you're able to make it look nice and make it look pretty, by all means, please do that. But if you have a choice between making something look pretty versus providing a better experience, please provide the better experience. And please make it that authentic experience, because that authenticity is going to be felt well before it's ever seen. And it's important. It is so important, because what it says to those athletes and what it says to those families is that you matter. And what you think, what you feel, and what you experience matters. And it matters more than a balloon arch or a pretty centerpiece, that goes on a table that's gonna, be boxed up and put away 5 minutes after the event is over. Let's focus on the experience, because that authenticity is gonna beat the polish of nice decorations every single time. The other thing that is so important to me is making sure that those that potentially can come after me see what is possible, because they see someone that looks like them out there doing something that they never thought they could do. Let me give you an example. Tiger Woods is one of the greatest golfers of all time. What Tiger Woods did for an entire generation of kids that didn't even think that golf was an option is undeniable. What Tiger Woods did was show so many kids that never saw someone play golf on TV that looked like them. Now they had someone that looked like them on TV playing golf. And now they said, if he's playing golf, maybe I can play golf too. When it comes to disability ministry, there are a lot of awesome ministries, going on. I think of Nick Vujicic, with his Nick V Ministries. I think of Johnny and Friends, and Johnny, all that she has done for the disability community. And they are giants in this space, and they have done such incredible work. I'm inspired by both of them. But when it comes to doing the All-Ability ministry within FCA, what's so important to me is for those that will come after me to be able to say, you know what, I saw someone that looks like me leading this out, doing the ministry, not just being a participant, but he was leading. He was out there and he was showing others how to get this done. that is so important to me because growing up, I didn't see any of that. Growing up, I didn't have anybody to look to when it comes to doing some pretty hard things, but also some pretty cool things for God. And, I think it's important that when we are in these spaces and we're working with organizations, that part of it is seeing people that look like us in those positions, because we don't aspire to those positions if we don't see it. Not that I want kids to look at me, because I always want to point people to Jesus. If I can inspire somebody to say, you know what, if he's doing this ministry, then I can do this ministry too. That's a wonderful thing, because I can't do this forever. I need and want others that have disabilities to come alongside me, to come after me, and to do it 10 times better than I'm doing it now. But for so many, in order to take that step, in order to take that leap, you have to see somebody that looks like you actually doing the thing. And that's why we have an entire generation of kids that look like Tiger Woods playing golf now, because they saw somebody on TV that looked like them playing golf. And they realized that this was a possibility for them when they didn't think that before Tiger. I want to do that and inspires the next generation of ministry workers to say, you know what, you can work in this space, and not only that, you can also lead in this space. And I think that's important too. I believe it is extremely important that we have people that have disabilities in positions of leadership, not just in their own organizations, like we see with a Nick Vujicic or Johnny from Johnny and Friends. Those things are great, and I applaud them every day. I love seeing all the work that they're doing, but they're leading their own organization. It's easy to do that when it's your organization. I want to see people that have disabilities being in leadership positions of organizations that are not necessarily theirs. This also speaks to another tension that I fight every day, when it comes to being in this space of disability ministry. I want to make sure that when I am asked to speak, or when